What is up, Wizards fans? The first win of the season, and even more impressive is how they did it. I don't care what the older players did. This was the other Bilal Coulibaly game. Last game was the first Bilal Coulibaly game. This is the next one. Will, you know me. I'm not big on hyperbole. I don't like to overreact. Do we think Bilal can actually win Defensive Player of the Year and MVP and Most Improved Player in the same year this year?
I think you're selling him a little short, actually.
Good.
So,
Yep.
I think we need to aim higher for Bilal.
Yep. That's right. He deserves more.
That was awesome. It's just really cool to actually see the young guys be given the ball and get an opportunity to show what they can do. And not only did he show, he was sunning Trae Young on defense and then driving straight. It was insulting that they even put Trae on him defensively, and he was just like, all right, fine. And not only did that, he scored on him and he talked shit on him. You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Those 3 straight drives, I just kept each one. I was like, well, they're not going to give him the ball again. Oh, wait, they did. And he's going to drive. I was like losing my shit here, just like a stuttering fool listening to that. The only thing that could make this better would be a couple celebratory stateside, Surfside hard iced teas, hard lemonades, hard any flavor you can think of. Any of them would be amazing right now. Also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. You just want to bet on Bilal to win every postseason award ever. Honestly, I don't see why that'd be a bad investment at this point. Get your favorite player props, everything you can think of from BetOnline. It's your number one source for all your sports betting needs. Did I say that already? Because just bet on Bilal, baby. Believe in Bilal. That's going to be the new name of this podcast from now on. But BetOnline, it's where the game starts. So, and Bilal is where the game ends because he ended that shit with great effing defense. Well, I'm all over the place, man, because I that was the most fun I've had watching a game in a very, very long time.
Well, what's crazy is given how that game started,
I was
start out that way. So ready to just rage out and be like, because we talked about it at the pregame where you were like, oh, it looks like they're going to start Sarr and JV together. And I'm not going to lie, immediately when I heard that, I was kind of just like, don't like that. Do not like that. And
it got better as soon as they abandoned that. As soon as they just went, all right, Sarr is our 5. We're just rolling with this. Like, it's like, we play offense and defense now. That's fun.
Yeah. It was night and day once the spacing switched and they set them apart. It's like we immediately went on a run. We closed that gap, and it's props to them, I guess, for trying it. I don't know what prompted that change because I really don't think the lineup or the Hawks roster kind of lends itself to us needing to really go big. But even more props to Keefe for kind of just realizing that and just saying, fuck it, we're throwing that script out and we're going to make
abandon stuff that doesn't work. I mean, it's not that hard, and we didn't see that at all for the coach that was here for the last couple years prior to Keefe. So
yeah, no, I was talking about that with someone else where I was just like, I'm so used to seeing the stagnant third quarter where it's just like quicksand, where you just watch it keep happening and you're just like, okay, so I guess we're doing this.
Because there's nothing we can do about it. We're not allowed to change things, right? I mean, that'd be weird.
That was a really nice change of pace.
Let's just kind of run through it here a little bit. Kyle Kuzma put us through the ringer in this one a little bit. It was actually maybe like a typical bad start, maybe not quite as bad as the first 2 games were overall, because he was doing other stuff still. And then the guy caught fire at some point. He still finished 8 of 20 for the game, which is 40%, which is still not ideal, but the jumpers he hit were huge. He was 5 of 9 from 3. So maybe we should only take threes from now on. He had 11 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 turnovers, not ideal. But he was a positive, in plus minus. Sarr, 3 of 11, 1 of 5 from 3, but he hit one really big 3 as they started to make a run. He had 9 rebounds, which I love, 1 assist, which I love, 1 steal, which I love, and 2 blocks, which were very crucial. And honestly, this was like the Zach Edey thing last year. Like, oh, he's not leading the country in block shots or whatever, but he was an actual deterrent. Like, guys were afraid to do shit with Sarr anywhere near them.
Oh, absolutely. There were so many different times, especially in the fourth. He had a presence the whole game, but when it really tightened up in the last 2-3 minutes of that game, There were
Yep.
so many times where I saw him altering guys' shots where they'd go for look and they would have to adjust, pass out,
Mhm.
just making shit difficult and making people and like that is something that we haven't had and we've
Ever.
severely and just to see it happen like that where it's just like, oh wow, look at someone long and agile actually making a difference and putting an effort. It was so good to see. And I mean, shout out to all the young guys. Like I think Kaison had a little bit of a rough game, but I'm not even that mad because I feel like Trae was kind of foul baiting him a ton of stuff.
The defense late, he was more good than bad, especially when Kuzma went out with whatever that was at the end there. Like he was long and he was in the way, and I can live with that. Like Trae gets everybody with some bullshit foul calls.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, you mentioned Kuzma. I really feel like that is like a quintessential Kuzma game because like the shots that he was taking that he was missing were just like, bro, what are you doing here? What is going on here? He had some of that's the spacing with the lineup at the beginning, but some really floppy passes and turnovers early on. But then you go to the third and the fourth quarter and the shots that he's hitting, you're just like, oh my God, the gravity of that sequence where he hits
that.
threes
Do
back.
that more.
Yeah, and that one where he just ran up in transition and planted and that's one of those no yes shots.
Mm-hmm.
And when he hits those, you're just like,
let's go, baby.
Yeah. So it was really nice to see him turn out. And yeah, he shot 40% from the field, which isn't great, but 11 boards, 7 assists. Like he was doing his thing out there. A little sporadic, but way better than the first 2 games of the season in the preseason. So, we will take that. One thing I did want to point out, because I was really happy with how Poole had a big first half with 19 points and pretty much kept us in it for the most part.
He was the offense in the second quarter.
And then in the second half, I was really happy to see him not necessarily like shot hunt, but just kind of pick his spots and know to get other guys going. And then once it came to the fourth, where he got that ISO on Reza Shea to hit that dagger 3, never have I ever wanted Steve Buckhands back more to hear a dagger. But that was huge. It was a really, really good Jordan Poole game too. I was really happy to see him play in control. And I have been someone who's been very critical of Jordan, and I was very excited to add him last season, but with all his struggles and everything, I kind of called it like I see it. So I have to give him his props. He's playing much better this year, and I really appreciate that.
He just did stuff on defense again too. Like I mean,
yeah.
He's not gonna win Defensive Player of the Year, but that's what the other guys on this team are for. Just be solid. Don't get hunted. Unfortunately, there was one player, Wizards, that we'll maybe talk about that did get hunted a little bit, I think, but that's okay. I mean, like if Poole was out there next to Coulibaly and Sarr and George and whoever else is going to play actual defense next to them, you can live with it as long as he continues to be passable. And the offense is that crazy efficient. Like that's the player that makes $30 million a year. That's the player you can say, well, okay, well, he does fit in next to these guys as, some instant offense and some just built-in gravity.
Yeah. It's a player like that. Like it makes sense when you see a game like this why he played. He had plays where he was getting pressured on the ball late and he was breaking the double to force a foul or get a pass where he kicked it out, swung over to Kispert to hit a big 3. Like he was doing the things that we brought him to Washington to do. And it's just nice to see that pay off. And it's really good for him. I saw how hyped he was after he hit that shot. And I know, I can't relate to being an NBA player, but I can only imagine how that's got to feel after the season he had last year. So, props to JP.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like this is a guy whose entire game is kind of built on confidence. So last year had to be just an absolute nut punch, and the fact that he's recovered and then carried last year's end of season momentum into the start of this season. I'm not expecting him to shoot, whatever he was, like 75% from 3 tonight. Yeah, 6 of 8 every night. But just, hey man, be 3 of 8 and 3 of 8, 4 of 8 a couple nights. Like that's great. And just take good shots, do what you do. He also had 5 assists, 2 steals, 3 turnovers. It just no complaints, right? Like I'll take a whole season of that. Valanciunas, 3 of 7 from the field. 9 rebounds. He had 4 assists, and I thought a couple of them were pretty meaningful assists too. 4 turnovers between he, Kuzma, and Poole. That's kind of like the one nitpick there. Maybe is like the 3 of them combined for 10 turnovers is a little tough. But hey, we'll take it. He was fine. He did what he needed to do. He had a couple little over his right shoulder baby jump hooks and stuff, and collected a couple fouls from people. No complaints there about him being the backup center essentially. And then let's go Kispert, because we talked about Kispert before the game, and you tweeted this out. Like, we were saying it was time for a Corey Kispert game. He was 7 of 15 tonight, 4 of 9 from 3, 4 rebounds, and one of them late was huge, like absolutely huge. It's the toughest I've ever seen him be on a big rebound. 1 assist, 1 steal, only 1 turnover. I did think he got hunted defensively and wasn't particularly good on that end. But if you shoot 50% from 3 and you're making smart plays, and it's fine. Like, you can survive the one guy out there like that for 25 minutes a game or whatever it was he played tonight. Actually, he played 35. Wow, it didn't feel like that many minutes, but he was really good tonight. So credit to Corey Kispert. That's the guy that got the big extension.
Well, yeah, and I mean, props to him. I like you said, we were kind of hoping to see that game from him finally, and then him being hunted on defense. You'd like to see it not happen, and you'd like to see him be a better defender. But I think I've gotten used to it at this point. I know I've seen him get backdoored so many times, and there was one play where I thought he had great positioning and kept his hands up, didn't jump on Jalen Johnson, and he just spun into him and just threw it up over him and banked it in. And it's just like, I mean, Corey, that was good defense, and you did everything you could, and he still hit it. So it's just like, that might happen, but that's not what he's out on the court there to do. He's out there to be offense, shoot the ball, cut, move the ball, keep that offense mode, keep things humming essentially. Like, because whenever we get stagnant or gunked up, he was the first guy we brought off the bench to come in and generate. Well, I'm pretty sure he was the first guy off the bench, but that's that's his role. He's the spark plug for us. So, I mean, the defense, if it improves, great. But that is the kind of game that I love to see from Corey. And I liked how aggressive he was. He was getting, he was getting hit at the rim a couple times, but that didn't deter him from continuing to go up and try and drive in there. But yeah, I mean, the thing that we touched on at the top of the show, and I'll give you a runway to kind of wax poetic about Bilal, but that was the shining, cornerstone of this game for me, is just every other possession he'd be doing something. And I was watching the Hawks stream, full disclosure, and the Hawks announcers, I felt like every minute or two they were just like, this Bilal kid, they were frustrated with him, and I was just like, you should be. Yeah. He's so what do you have to say about Bilal? What were your thoughts on that?
I was thinking about both he and Sarr, and this is sort of like a half-answered question, but just for me, I'm like, all right, who are the best Wizards defenders, like, of my lifetime, essentially? And like the 2 that stand out of like guys while I've actively been rooting for the Wizards is, 1, my guy Larry Hughes, and 2, there was like a 2-year stretch where John Wall was actually like a really good defender. And it wasn't just like reach around steals because he was like lazy or hungover. Like, he was really good for like, I would give him like a 2-year stretch of like high level defense, and better than average the rest of the time. But to me, like, those are 2 guys that like didn't have the same collective impact that both Bilal and Sarr can have, because it's not just they shut off their guy or shut down their guy. They can shut down like a whole side of a court, and Bilal in passing lanes, and just Sarr rotating over. Like, there were 1 or 2 plays early, and actually I thought Drew Gooden, shout out to Drew, killed it on the Wizards broadcast tonight, because he was pointing out a couple things that, especially from like, I think Sarr playing essentially his position, he was able to kind of highlight a few things like, hey, that's a missed rotation by Alex. You'd like to see him over there and help from the weak side, like things like that. And it's like, in the second half, he started doing that, and it just seemed like he was everywhere, and Bilal was everywhere. And it's not a coincidence that Trae Young missed like 13 shots in a row or whatever, because even when he got Bilal in jail a little bit, he ran into Sarr and then was just like, okay, well, we're reversing this thing back out. And now Dyson Daniels has to take a shitty shot. So just the impact they can have, they're floor raisers for everybody else too. And to have two guys like that, I mean, this is what you want. Like, that's how you build a championship core, is having two guys that have like big time offensive ceilings, but just are just day one. Like, we are built on defense now, and deal with us from like a length and athleticism perspective. And that's just not something that DC has had.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up the pairing of Bilal and Sarr, and that just kind of, there were a couple sequences specifically where one in particular where Trae got stuck up top with Bilal guarding him, and he called for the screen, and it wound up with just Sarr and Bilal just essentially trapping him.
And converged on him.
He jumped, and then he had to do a bailout pass. And it was one of those things where I've been talking with, and a lot of other Wizards fans have been talking about the vision for this team. And you think about just agility, length, size, versatility. It's one of those things where, I've been preaching it, I've been saying it all this time, and I can envision it in my head. But that was one of those sequences where it really felt like it crystallized. Like, you have the vision, then you have the vision in action. And that was, it's the ground stages of the rebuild, but to be able to see the flashes of that and to kind of see the potential where it could be, it's very easy to extrapolate what these guys could look like at 23, 24. And then you're playing with, other superstar 1A talents that, no disrespect to Poole or Kuzma, but you throw in a top 20 NBA guy next to these. And I mean, you look at the difference between Sarr in the preseason and Summer League versus Sarr now, and it's not like he's a world beater, but he's significantly more effective. Mm-hmm. Add in experience, add in, multiple games under your belt, learning, developing, adding some weight and some muscle, better ball IQ, better chemistry. And it's just, it's an exciting building block, especially since we haven't seen, good, consistent defense out of the Wizards. And I mean, you brought up Larry Hughes and John Wall. I think those are the last times I was just like, the Randy Whitman era was the last good defensive Wizards teams that I watched, save maybe a couple games here and there. Like,
Denny was really good defensively. I thought Otto Porter was really good defensively. Trevor Ariza was good here defensively. But I don't think any of those three guys had the same like collective impact that Bilal can have, because he disrupts. And it's like the Ed Reed effect, like everything else on the field, everybody's doing this, like looking over their shoulder, like, where is this guy going to come from?
Yeah.
And these guys, like, we're spending a lot of time talking about them because they're the rookies, obviously, and it's exciting, but they shot below 35% from the field combined. And I still think their collective impact was like incredibly positive, just because of that. And the Wizards having two-way prospects is just, something I can't even think back on. And just talking about like defensive bigs, with that, like the way I feel about Sarr right now is the way I felt about like Rasheed Wallace, who's like one of my all-time favorite, Wizards rookies, essentially. Just like, oh, look at this guy. Like, he's like, that's kind of what he reminds me of, is like a modern day Rasheed, like from that perspective of just like, I can play defense. I can switch onto people. I'm going to stretch the floor a little bit. He's not making shots right now, but I think the people will like eventually have to guard him. So I couldn't say enough good things about two guys who shot 35% from the field. Like, normally that would drive me nuts, but they were so overwhelmingly positive.
If it's two-way guys that can shoot 35, 40% from the field, but they can hold their other guy to 35%, I'm really, hey, especially at 20 years old, 21 years old, I will take that. I will take that. I'm 21. I think I'm over some. I don't think either of them are 21. Is Bilal 21 yet?
I think Bilal's still 20. Actually, he might be 21 now.
Still, but yeah, I mean, either way, neither of them are of drinking age. So, like, it's
Bilal is 20 and 94 days. So
there we go. Something I did kind of put down in my notes, and before I forget, shout out again Bub Carrington for having.
That's where I want to go next. Yeah.
He didn't really pop off, I want to say, the stat sheet or anything like that, but man, you felt him today. His buckets were so timely and so needed, and he's occupying the role right now that I think they were going to put Brogdon in as like, okay, you're the steady hand guy that we need to kind of like right the ship. And he's doing that with a combination of his like, yeah, but I can get a bucket if I really want to.
Yep.
And I love that. That's a perfect opportunity for him to kind of grow right now. And it's something where I think one of those things, like, obviously you don't wish for Brogdon to be hurt. And I would like to see how that, what their vision for the roster was with Brogdon, but it's a blessing in disguise for Bub to get the added opportunities and the added minutes. Cause I really don't know how much run all the young guys would be getting. Cause I wrote down that
you couldn't fit in all of them. You just couldn't.
Well, and that's the thing. We had Bagley got like 4 minutes tonight, but outside of that, we ran an 8-man rotation. So like,
I kind of liked Bagley's 4 minutes though, by the way. Like it doesn't sound like much, but I've liked Bagley overall this year, and just I thought he came in and gave him a little hustle, and it was fine.
I didn't think Bagley was a problem at all. I just kind of thought it was interesting that they, maybe it's because he realized it was a close game, and Keefe was just like, all right, well, if we hadn't ran that JV star stuff, maybe we would have a shot at this one. So maybe he, tightened the screws and was like, let's try and win this one. But I don't recall seeing many 8-man rotations 2 or 3 games into the season and a lot of NBA games. So, but to that point, it's a benefit for Bub, Kaishan. They both got over 20 minutes. Bilal got, I think, 37 minutes. Sarr almost got 30 minutes. He was like 20, 27, 28 minutes there. So like, good. Shorter rotation, as long as the young guys are part of that rotation, that is the vision. And that was the biggest thing I struggled with last year, was just like running out Landry Shamet and freaking all these other vets. Was just like, okay, what are we doing? What's the plan here? Like, so
that's first round G League draft pick, Landry Shamet. Thank you very much.
Like a second overall, much like our beloved Alex Sarr.
Yeah, you nailed it right there, though, Will. 27 minutes for Sarr, 37 for Bilal, which is, that's amazing. Yep. And then Bub and Keyshawn both 21 minutes. Like, that's awesome. Keyshawn not shooting the ball very well so far this season. That's the thing I least worry about with him.
Yeah.
I still am just like pleasantly surprised by the overall defense there. He's moving so much more fluidly, it seems like, on that end of the floor at the very least. Like, the rest will come in time. And just sticking with Bub, 4 or 5 from the field, 3 or 4 from 3, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, only 1 turnover. What we talked about with like Jared Butler before the game, Bub did tonight, plus size and playmaking and shot making. Like that was awesome to see. And he needed kind of one of those games, I think, just from a conference perspective, to like see a couple shots actually go in, because he's been taking good shots so far for the most part. So this was nice for him, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, honestly, all of the young guys had a great showing today. Like the one you would nitpick the most is Kaishan, but like, I mean, it may sound kind of weird, but like, he's probably one of the rookies I'm least concerned about, because like he hasn't had a moment where you're just like, oh yeah, that's a signal. Like, oh, he's a dude. Like, Bub's hitting these shots. Sarr will get these blocks. But Kaishan doesn't do. And is it? I don't want to mess up. Is it Kaishan or Keyshawn? Keyshawn.
Yeah.
Perfect. Keyshawn. So Keyshawn he doesn't really ever have moments where I'm just like, oh, that was a mistake, or oh, that was a bad play. He's just always in the right spot, doing the right thing, doing what you need, someone you can rely on. And that's a perfect starting block for a guy like that. But then, Bub, we talked about wanting, like you said, Butler to have that role. I'm happy to have Bub get that role. No disrespect to Butler at all, but like, we just drafted this kid in the first round. We got to see what he can do. And he's doing it. And I'm oh man, this one was there was someone who tweeted me where there's a sequence where it was Sarr hit a 3, Bub hit a 3, and then I think it was I can't remember. It was another young guy. It was Bilal. Bilal hit the third three back to back to back. And I was hype about it. And someone was like, but wait, we need to lose. And it's like,
there'll be plenty of those.
We have so many games we're going to lose.
Yeah.
Like, and trust me, we will. Like, we will lose games. But games like this, when you're competing, and it like, I get everybody's all in on the tank and 0-82 and want the best odds. You got to get wins every once in a while. You need to put something in the tank, and you got to give these guys something to let them know that, like, you know, hey, we're not just complete ass. Because I have my grievances with the roster, but like, I think a lot of these guys have ways that they contribute to NBA teams. And they wouldn't be in the league if they couldn't. It's a weird amalgamation of talent. The Wizards are in this weird flux period, but like on any given night, guys can get hot and guys can play. And, you know, as a player, you know, those guys need stuff like that. It's going to be great for the locker room. It's going to be great for especially coming off a rough start, you know, that they had, like, and just a wonky, you know, preseason, some weird miscommunications, you know, there's a lot of question marks coming into this season. And the only thing that was a given was like, oh, we're going to be bad. So to be able to kind of just 3 games in being like, well, actually, you know, we're not embarrassing, you know, we can play freaking basketball. So I don't know. I was prepared to lose. That was my pregame prediction. And it's just nice to, you know, it's just nice to get a win. I think there's nothing.
It's fun to have fun, man. Just let us have our fun. Like, that's just all it is.
And I mean, the whole season's about the young guys growing it. You got a good game from the young guys, and they get a win.
They played a lot.
You know, put it in your backpack. You know, hold on to this one for a bit, because it's going to get to a point where we drop 10 straight, and someone's going to be like, "Oh, this is such a." Well, you know, that was bound to happen.
Yeah, anyone that knows me well enough knows I hate when people are like the fan police and tell people how they should or shouldn't root on their team, but just gotta just let us have a little fun. I got the same couple, like, man, we're killing the tank right now. Can't do this too often. And just like, they're not going to be good. Like, Will Dawkins won't let them end up in a position where they don't get a top 5 pick. Like, it's already assured. It's guaranteed. Like, worst case scenario, it's Utah the other year where they were so plucky and fun that eventually they shut it down and end up with like a top 8 pick anyway. Like, they'll take care of this. And I got excited tonight because I was like, if you just dropped like a real, like, franchise caliber player on this roster, even, that's a really fun team all of a sudden. Just like them with a couple of the young guys, maybe one less vet in their place, but like, there's enough pieces here to start to be exciting and intriguing. And I think that's more what I envision, even on a night like this, where it's just fun to watch them all play. But like, watching these guys as ancillary players, like orbiting around like a star, it's just like a really fun thought. And it's been a long time since we've kind of had that, you know, to look forward to as well.
Yeah. Only thing I was going to say, it's something that I thought about. There's been the last few years, the Wizards, whether we're rebuilding or running for the playoffs or whatever, we've never had a situation where we're getting multiple first round picks. So it's usually when we're reloading the tank and looking to the future, we've got one guy, maybe Tristan Vucevic or some other second rounder, you know, but we've had one guy to kind of pin our hopes to. And, you know, Corey's been nice. Denny was good for us, but like, Johnny was not the guy that we wanted to get as hyped about as we want. And now Bilal is there. And then you take this ice cream scoop and get 3 guys out of this draft that was deemed one of the worst in recent memory. And I mean, they're not world beaters right now, but to your point, like, you can see the excitement and you can see the fun and you can see the potential. And it's so much better when that's spread across 3 guys instead of just one guy, because now, especially because they're all getting playing time, you get to watch all of them grow. You get to see the things like, oh, I like this in his game. Oh, I like this in this. I can see how this matches. You just get to see everything come together as a cohesive piece. And when you get guys like that all together at once while they're young, the chemistry is only going to improve. So it's I can't believe I'm saying this, but it is a fun and exciting time to be a Wizards fan. and I mean that in all sincerity. Like, I really do. I know it's going to be a rough season, but like, get in on the ground floor while you can, because I really do think these young guys have something.
I played basketball with a bunch of guys, and like a couple of them actually, watch the Wizards and will talk Wizards with me. Shout out Al and people like that. But it's like, for the most part, they're like, oh, you're the Wizards guy. Like, are they going to be any good this year? I'm like, no, they'll be historically bad, but I'm excited about it. Like, it's hard to explain to anyone that has like actual, I don't know, like common sense or sanity to think about what that would look like. But I did share this in our group chat. I was listening to something else today, and a college basketball analyst who works for an NBA team as well was talking about how, like in any other draft, what he'd seen of VJ Edgecombe just in a practice made him think that that guy would be a number one pick in most drafts. And he's like projected top like 5-6 area. Like, we're going to get someone good in this upcoming draft, because I trust that if these guys can find 3 guys from last year's draft, they can definitely find one in the top 5 of next year's draft. Get us another pick, and then we're really cooking. So that'll be good. All right, let's just hit the chat here a little bit. Desan said, in 3 years, Bilal will be the best player on this team. Mini Giannis, but better shooting and ball handling. Let's go. People loving the Giannis comp the last couple of days. Moneyman Stevens, that fourth quarter belonged to Bilal. What's your ceiling for him? I don't know, Will. What's the ceiling for Bilal?
I bought into the Giannis comps pretty early with Bilal, just because, like, oh, cool, lanky young kid that has a frame that can potentially add a lot of mass. But he came in so much more skilled as a ball handler and shooter than Giannis, that him not being as raw, I hesitate to give him a Giannis comp because that is a freaking MVP, league champion. But like, there's a world where there's like a middle ground between him and like, I'm trying to think, like a Kuzma like type player, but Bilal's a better athlete than Kuzma. And I don't think he's going to be quite the tank that Giannis is. So like, I struggle with player comps sometimes, because especially for a guy like Bilal, I think he's just going to be Bilal. And I'm really excited to see what that is, because he's just this long, aggressive guy that was before his growth spurt, had point guard skills. And then he's coming out of France, which is a good development country for these international prospects. He knows how to play the right way. And he's got dog in him. He doesn't back down from shit. He was smack talking Trae after driving on him. Like, those are intangible things where you have the drive and then you have the physical traits. And the only question mark was really like, is he going to take any kind of offensive leap? And it's just like, the last 2 games, stamp. Yes. Yes, he can. And is it sustainable? We're going to see. But like, I think what he's doing, massive Denny fan over there, what he's doing is going to be way more sustainable than anything Denny ever did. So it's so much easier to bank on his success and what he's going to come into. So what's his ceiling? I don't know, but I think he has, to what you touched on at the top, he has defensive player of the year potential. He has all-star potential. He has all NBA potential, just because of the type of player he is. Will he live up to that? I don't know, but I definitely think he's going to be an all NBA caliber player, and he can easily average maybe like 17 or 18 in a season, which you couple that with his defense, and if he's still aggressive on the boards, and he's made strides as a playmaker. Like, I don't want to put a ceiling on Bilal. Honestly, that's what my take is. I don't want to put a ceiling on Bilal.
Not a ceiling, but like, I could see a Pascal Siakam type offensively, and like a Jonathan Isaac or Jaden McDaniels defensively, like that level of like top 5 defender. And I think that's what's the cool part, is that either side you can say he has like elite traits, which is awesome. Zega said,
that would be sweet. That would be sweet.
Yeah, we need that. Zega said JP Dagger, agreed. That was huge from him, and good call by you. Miss Mr. Buckhants every day. Not that he's dead, but dead from Wizards broadcasting.
Shout out to Buck and Phil.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever said this on the pod, but my wife and I saw him at the NCAA tournament in New York, and he just like, I don't know, Buck's been on the show a couple times. He's like the greatest dude ever, but just just reinforces like just what a nice man that is. And he spent a couple minutes chatting with us, chatted with her, like, made her feel in on, what was going on. Like just quality dude. So I miss him on the broadcasts. It never makes no sense. Said this is Bilal's best game. Held Trae Young to 2 of 15 from the field and had 17 points. LMAO. Agreed. LMAO belongs in caps for this one because it's just laughable. Some of the stuff he was doing. Andrew Addison said Bilal is my hero. Agreed. Saw said I need to rebrand so I can get another Bilal jersey man. Mr. Owl said fire emojis a bunch of times and such a fire game. Agreed. Cup of Java whiz win. Yes, love that. Nomadic Brian, are we happy Wizards fans? Hell yeah, we are.
Damn right.
Ain't no half Stefan said Kispert started ? No, but he started playing like the Corey Kispert that we wanted him to play like, so that's awesome. Phil Wilson said, I really liked Keefe's decision to play the young guys and Poole down the stretch. We're actually going to see development. The fact that they can focus on development, getting young guys minutes, and still win is amazing.
Yeah, that's the trifecta.
That's all you want. Yeah, exactly. Tommy said, you mean Keefe adjusts during the game? Amazing. Absolutely. We love to see that. Tommy, you're the man. Cup of Java said, any concerns with Sarr missing 2 or 3 bunnies? He had 2 blocks and altered many shots. His D is good. It's just going to happen. That's a strength thing to me. Like, it's also probably a free throw shooting thing. Like, I've got to rush and throw this thing up before somebody either hacks me and I have to shoot free throws or I get like bullied off the spot. So he'll get better there.
Yeah, I mean, like things like when he went up, he did go up a little soft for that sequence where he tried to put it up twice. Yeah. I do think that's one of the things, and I don't have any justification or basis for this, but I think once he's got like 15 more pounds on him, that's the kind of thing where he just goes up and absolutely, because he's not afraid of anybody coming in and hacking him. He knows he's a tank, but we'll see how that develops. I've heard so many complaints about Sarr being soft, and I couldn't disagree more. I think he has some moments where he's a little timid going up for a shot, but you don't get in there and mix it up on the defensive end like he does and get labeled as a soft player. He's not soft. He's just a work in progress on offense. That's all.
I would love to be a fly on the wall for some of their practices because they have Alexi Ajinça as probably their big man coach. I would imagine as the only 7'2" member of the staff. I just would like to see what those two work on together. And I hate that I'm saying this and giving Duke any credit for anything, but Duke runs a show through their own YouTube called Blue Planet, and it's like their practice things or whatever. But they had Derek Lively come in and work with Kaman Malawak, their freshman center this year.
Yeah,
and it was just really cool seeing him go through his routine for Malawak, like the things that Lively does, and not bringing the ball down and going up strong over this shoulder. And okay, this is a play that has to be dunked, or you try to dunk it because that's how you get the foul. Like that's the kind of stuff I hope is going on with Sarr behind the scenes, and would go a long way. And it's all really coachable stuff. So to your point, it's getting stronger. And to someone like showing him the tape and being like, so why didn't you dunk this one again? And then next time he's in that same position, he's like, oh yeah, I should probably dunk this one. Like that. I think that's all it takes.
I agree. I'm on the same boat with that. Like I get people wanting to like. There's this inherent thing where people are just like, he's not playing like a second overall pick. Okay, so the first overall pick is not playing like a typical first overall pick. None of this rookie class, nobody's essentially living up to snuff. But
the rest of them aren't even playing.
It's year one, and like none of these guys are LeBron James or Victor Wembanyama. So if you're expecting them to come out and have that kind of impact, that's more on you for having that expectation than the player for not living up to it. So like, I couldn't agree more. I think Sarr, Bub, and Keyshawn are all going to be fine. But yeah, I would be curious about what kind of conversations they're having, because I think those are all fixable, coachable things, to your point. Yeah.
Sam Hershey said every rookie had at least 20 minutes. That's huge. Telling who didn't get any minutes as well. Yeah, that is a good point. I'm like the worst pronunciation person ever. So I'm butchering this. Apologies. Itay, Ite. Fine win. 21 of 34 from 3-point attempts won't happen most nights, and defense wasn't great, but the process is more important. The rookie showed again that they can play, and Bilal was great. I mean, yeah, they're not going to shoot that well on average. I actually thought the defense was really good when it mattered. There were some lapses, but with this many young people and some not great defenders, like that's going to happen. So I'll take it overall. But yeah, it was just really good. And Brody said, good shit, Bilal. Don't let the haters like this guy depress you. These guys need to play to win and play hard. Yep. Comp for Bub, Cup of Java asks. Anything that comes to mind for Bub for you?
A guard who can play in control but isn't afraid to hunt his own shot.
I kind of like Brogdon as like a reasonable.
I was gonna say Brogdon's not a bad comp. I would give him a little bit of maybe some Darius Garland in there too, just a little bit of more scoring punch, because I don't think Brogdon as effective as a scorer as Poole can be when he's at his peak. But I think Brogdon's a pretty good comp. And I mean, maybe that's part of. Did they make that trade prior to drafting Bub? I wonder if there's any.
No, he was a part of the Denny trade. So
that's right.
That was before the draft. Yeah,
that's right. So it was all part of it.
But he's like, like Brogdon's not really like a pure point guard, but he can do both. He's a career 15, 4-4 guy. Like that's kind of what you want Bub to try to be and be a better defender than maybe his physical traits lend you to believe.
Yeah, I mean, and Brogdon always gets up in there and mixes it up defensively, and Bub does not shy away from that either. So honestly, yeah, Brogdon's really not a bad one. I think I don't want to sell Poole short. I don't want to sell Bub short. It's the same thing with what's the comp for Bilal? The world. They can be whatever the hell they want to be.
We'll take it. Wizard of Oz says Mikal Bridges, but better is the comp. I would be okay with that. J Random Yo said, how do you say got that dog in him in French? We need to figure that out. So somebody tweet at Wizards France and we'll see what that looks like.
I was going to make something up that sounded French, and I was like, oh, I'll keep that to myself.
Yeah. That could end poorly for us as a show.
Yeah.
Let's not. But also, if you're still watching this, hit the like button on YouTube. We always appreciate that stuff. Will is donating his time twice this evening, so least we can do is get a ton of likes out of this. So appreciate you all doing that. David Confield said Kuz looked like himself tonight. Yeah, I mean I think Will said it at the beginning. Like that was the textbook Kuzma experience. Like a down period, but then an up period, and the highs were really high, and we'll take it. And then T. Delmar said Wiz rookies are playing the most minutes in the NBA so far. BK is setting up for development. Yes, he keeps his job. Just for as long as he keeps doing this, I'm all in on BK.
I mean, hey, he made a third quarter adjustment, and that's something I don't think I saw much of from his predecessor. So
maybe first one this decade, potentially.
Potentially. Going off of Kuzma, has there been any? I haven't kept up. Has there been any updates or words on why he left the court? I know he was on the bench and then went back to the locker room. I haven't seen anything else on that.
Yeah, I was actually early in the show, like Googling his or tweeting his or Twitter searching his name just to see if anything came up. I immediately turned off the broadcast, so I am not sure what the case is there.
I'm sure
I don't know.
Hopefully nothing major. I don't think it would be that.
But 35 seconds ago, Monumental Sports reports Kyle Kuzma earned the Clark Builds hard hat player of the game tonight. So
yeah, but
there you go.
Is
the
that
moment you've been waiting?
Like the Alexei Petrov I get buckets son award?
I tell you what, man, no one wins that tonight, and that is the single greatest achievement for this entire team. Is that it was just all good on that front. I'm not seeing anything here, Will. It's a really good question. So we'll update everybody on that before next podcast. Hopefully nothing serious. He hung around for a while after whatever that was, so can't be too bad, I wouldn't expect.
Yeah. Maybe he's trying to, maybe with the win, he's got inspiration for a post-game fit.
That would be amazing. I mean, honestly, maybe the first full game with those retired, maybe that was the key. Less fashion.
Here's like, this isn't working. I need to go back.
Yeah. Give me clothes. Yeah. And whatever he did tonight, Kuzma do more of that. Will, any final thoughts here as we wrap this one up? We're going longer than we will go on most of these post games, but we'll only get so many fun nights like this probably. So let's live it up.
Yeah, no, I'm fine savoring this one. I really don't have much else. I think we kind of touched on virtually all of it. Like we hit all the play. I mean, there were only 8 or 9 guys that played, and I think we talked about every one of them. And I liked virtually everything I saw from every one of them. So I like, I don't have too much to nitpick about in a rebuild deconstruction year. That went about as well as I could have hoped. That's a good one.
Appreciate you all in the chat for sticking with us and making some time on a Monday night. That's always fun. And we'll see if we can get more of these kind of games to look forward to. Next game for the Wizards is Wednesday night. They're home against the Atlanta Hawks again. It's at 7 p.m. So that's October 30th. Come out for your pre-trick-or-treat celebration or what have you. And hopefully they just keep it rolling. Maybe we'll just have the Hawks number this year. That would be absolutely tremendous. But Will, thank you so much for doing this. I can't think of anybody better to celebrate this Wizards victory with. So thank you for being here.
All right, appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. Favorite person to talk and enjoy the Wiz with, man. So this is great.
Right back at you. And thank you to all of you guys for being here in the chat. Just keep rolling. Like I said, if you haven't hit that like button for us yet, please do that. Also subscribe. Want to get the thing over 1,000 subscribers here early in the season if we can do that. So appreciate you all. As always, we are brought to you by betonline.ag, and we will catch you all next time.